Welcome to another edition of Espresso Jams. I'm so glad you're here. I have with us today Jason Wilson, and Jason is the founder of Circle of Friends Club. And we're going to talk about that. It's an exciting thing that he has going on and is such a benefit to so many people. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Welcome. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Hey, it's great to have you here, Jason. Where do you hail from today?
Well, I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, but I've been living in Columbia for the past 20 years now.
Oh, wow. Oh, man, we've got cold weather and rain here in Raleigh. I bet it's a little different there.
Yeah, where I'm at, it's like 85 degrees every day.
You're hurting me, Jason. You're listening to Espresso Jams, short, concentrated, delicious conversations about business, technology, and entrepreneurship. If you're just starting out on your business adventure or you're a seasoned business professional, I'm sure you'll find value in these short conversations. Espresso Jams is brought to you by 𝐘𝐸𝐸, providing the tools, insights, and transformative structures to help you reach your business summit. I'm your host, Joe Matz. Let's get started. So, you run a club called Circle of Friends, is that right?
Yes. The original vision was back in 2011 when I founded it, was just an events company. We would help single professionals expand their circle of friends.
Okay.
But over the years, it's basically transitioned into a completely different thing. We're a mental wellness club now, and we still have events to help people expand their circle of friends, but we also help clients to find the correct therapist or coach for them.
Okay. Now, you are your own business owner, correct? That's your business, right?
Yes.
So let's roll back the clock a little bit, Jason. The question I'd love to ask my guest is, was there any indication in your younger years that you would have your own business?
No, Joe, in the beginning, like all my friends, I wanted to be either a doctor or a lawyer. but all my close friends, their dads were doctors at my school. So I wanted to be a doctor too. And one of the popular shows in that time was St. Elsewhere. So,
Yes.
So, we used to watch that every single night and go back to school and talk about that.
Okay. So when did things change for you?
So things changed for me when I was in college. I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta. And during school, I worked at a private health club. And, fitness has always been a passion of mine. But I was really, really passionate about working out with weights. And I was really passionate also about helping other people with their exercise programs. So I became a personal trainer.
Okay.
And from there, I started my own business as a personal trainer. And I was really passionate about that. And I did really, really well. So I was in the fitness field for about 10 years. And I really enjoyed the fitness field.
Yeah. Well, I see a trend from being a doctor, wanting to be a doctor and a lawyer. That's helping people. And then being a physical therapist is also helping people. And now I think if I might jump a little bit, you're helping lots of people with your Circle of Friends Club.
Right. Yes.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So tell me a little more about the Circle of Friends Club, if you would.
Well, it's a huge vision, Joe. And, I had to do this in stages. So I found out this year that what I'm really going to focus on is transferring my website, where I have about 200 people that are in my circle right now. But I'm going to focus on the connection between the therapists, coaches, and clients aspect of the business. Okay. So I think that an important part of that is that for clients, it's not really easy to find the right therapist or coach for them because of personality, conflicts, and other conflicts. So you're going to have a way to find the correct therapist or coach based on personality and some other aspects.
So what type of coaches are people looking for?
mindset coaches, a coach where it can help you to have a space where you can express feelings that you've had for years that are bothering you and causing depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, and other mental health issues.
Okay, so it sounds like sometimes they need a coach, sometimes a therapist.
Right.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
are these, go ahead.
Depending on the gravity of the situation.
Sure, sure. And are these people, are they business owners? Do they have jobs, or executives, or are they in certain industries?
I would say it's a combination of all of those.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So and how would someone know, Jason, if getting involved with the circle of friends is the right thing for them?
Well, again, these are people that have found it really, really tough and difficult to find the right therapist or coach. And, the majority of the therapists and coaches are found through LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So they've tried it on their own a little bit, maybe even hired a coach and found out that they didn't get the results that they wanted, and kind of decide they need some help, figure out they need some help finding the right coach or therapist.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I'm kind of a DIY guy. I like to do things on my own and on my own, but I find out that just consulting that space between my ears isn't enough all the time. Perhaps most of the time. So got to reach out, expand that wealth of knowledge that's out there, because there's lots of people, I believe, who can help you along your path.
Absolutely.
It's so neat, and such a great service that you're helping folks do that.
Thank you so much.
In the beginning, you said that you had a different orientation for Circle of Friends and that it evolved over the years. Was there any point where you woke up and said, whoa, I've got to pivot?
Yeah, that actually happened during the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
And during the pandemic, I was actually in Bogota. Right now, I'm about 4 hours outside of Bogota. But during that time period, I was actually helping a friend of mine manage his English Institute in Bogota for a couple of weeks. And it just so happened that it was 2 weeks before the shutdown. Yeah, it was crazy. So anyway, I was staying at his apartment while he went back to the United States to be with his family. And during that time, I said, okay, well, I'm in this apartment and I'm completely shut down. I can't go home. What am I going to do here? And God gave me this idea. Okay, start a podcast. Okay. So that's what I did. And I organized actually a group podcast with Ray Leonard Junior, the son of Sugar Ray Leonard Junior, and the boxer.
Yeah.
Would you like to get in front of more of your ideal clients and at the same time build your brand and create evergreen content? Well, you can do that with podcast guesting. This very moment, you're listening to a podcast that may have been published today or 3 weeks ago or 3 years ago. In a very real sense, you're engaging with the speakers, hopefully enjoying yourself and learning something new at the same time. And you're getting to know the guest and how they help their clients, their customers, and the problems that they solve. You may even be their ideal client and want to learn more about them and download one of their free resources you can find in the show notes, or maybe even become a client of theirs. See, when you're a guest on a podcast, you will enjoy that same kind of engagement. It is perhaps the easiest, most cost-effective way to get in front of new audiences.
Yeah, so Ray Leonard Jr. came to my event, and it was a small event. There were only about 6 people at this event. And 10 minutes before this event started, Joe, there was a blackout in my neighborhood. And we lost the power, and I couldn't do the event. I was scrambling, trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I finally got in touch with Ray. He said, Jason, don't worry about it. This kind of thing happens when you're trying to do something positive. Mm-hmm. And then maybe 5 minutes later, the power came back on and we were able to do the event. So it was great. And from there, I started to do interviews on my own. And the next interview that I had was with the keyboardist from the Isley Brothers. Chris
Wow.
Jasper.
Okay. Yeah. Neat.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know. It was just like a chain of events that happened after that. But then I also got the idea of restarting the whole idea about Circle of Friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you started the podcast and got some great guests there in the beginning. That's absolutely amazing. What a great way to start a podcast.
Yeah.
And that inspired you to do what?
So that inspired me to create my own podcast show, which was Living on Purpose podcast. And so I did a series of interviews, and I got in touch with James Hagler, who is the son of Marvelous Marvin Hagler, another famous boxer from the late 80s, 90s. He was the middleweight champion of the world at the time. And so I asked James, would he be interested in being my podcast co-host? And he said, yeah, Jason, sure. So then we had that season of interviews, and then we stopped the season, and I created Victory Circle podcast, which is my current podcast show right now.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, looking back and with the experience and success that you have today, what do you wish you knew a few years ago that you know now?
I think I would say social media management and podcast editing. I wish I hadn't. Yeah, because I started a media company where I actually produce podcast shows for my clients. And I also do podcast editing and social media management. So I wish I had known that 3-4 years ago.
Why?
Well, of course, I would be in the position now where I have people that work for me doing this activity.
So you'd be further along the path than you are today.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm a one-man show right now.
Okay. Oh, that's a lot of work. And I know editing podcasts can be a lot of work. Sure. But it's a lot of fun too.
I enjoy it. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's so important. But Jason, how would someone, now we talked about folks who have tried to do things on their own and they get a little bit frustrated. How do people find you?
They can find me through LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. That's where I do the majority of my engagement with my community. Okay. But I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But again, I spend the majority of my time on LinkedIn.
So let's talk about engagement on LinkedIn. What have you found gives you the best engagement on LinkedIn?
Wow, that's a good question. What I found out this year, Joe, was a newsletter.
A newsletter?
Yes.
Okay.
And I had no intention of doing a newsletter this year. But again, God gives me, ideas and encouragement and direction. So he said one day, you've got all these articles that you've written before. You can create a newsletter and repurpose some of those articles. So that's what I've done. And it's working like clockwork.
So is it a newsletter that's published on LinkedIn?
Yes, I published my newsletter on LinkedIn, but I think that it's a good idea for people that want to start a newsletter to have the newsletter where you can have your client base on your website receive the newsletter on a regular basis as well. Because in all actuality, you're not the owner of the clients that receive your newsletter through LinkedIn. If something were to happen to LinkedIn, you would lose all of those contacts.
Right. So you do the newsletter on LinkedIn, but you also make it available on your website, and maybe do you send it out to your clients and folks in your circle?
That's correct.
So an email list.
Yes.
Also.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, I've always heard, and I'm a firm believer, you have to own your list. And when you're on LinkedIn, LinkedIn owns your list.
Right.
Because if they decide, like you said, to shut down, or you're no longer persona di grata, right? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are horror stories of people who have lost all their contacts on the social media site. So the email list, if you're listening today, and you've got to get your email list out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you this, Joe, this year, about a couple of months ago, my LinkedIn account was shut down for like a week. I couldn't get in.
What did you do?
Okay, so I found out that I had Circle of Friends Club included in my name on my profile page.
Okay.
And, I was having a conversation with a lady on LinkedIn, and all of a sudden my account was shut down and I was locked out of my account and I couldn't get back in. And so in order to have access to my account again, I had to go to Twitter, to the LinkedIn help page on Twitter, send them a message, and I got a response back within less than a day, and my account was reinstated in 24 hours later.
So that's so interesting, because I had heard that people were being shut down because they had their business name in their profile name.
Yeah.
But I never met someone who had that happen to them.
That happened to me.
Until today. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm glad it got resolved quickly.
Yes.
But it's just a lesson that, we need to own our own list if we're involved in marketing of any type.
Exactly.
Jason, we got off track a little bit, but that's such rich information about LinkedIn and what you found engagement with the newsletter. That's exciting. That's something I didn't know.
Yes. And, there's a lot of things you can do with that newsletter. You can write a story. You can include episodes of your podcast. You can feature someone from your community. And that's what I usually do.
Oh, wow.
And that gets a lot of engagement.
Okay. And I'm sure some of our listeners want to know about that newsletter. So we'll have that contact information in the show notes.
Excellent.
Yeah, this has been a great conversation, Jason. Is there anything that you would like to leave for our audience today?
Yes. And that would be that no matter what vision that you have for your business, you have to have a why that keeps you consistent, that helps you to persevere through tough times, because, like you said earlier, Joe, your business is on a cycle, and you're not always going to be on the end where your income is where you want it to be. So you have to be prepared to go through those times. And for me, it's always been about my relationship with God. And, that's my why. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning and keeps me encouraged and motivated. It's knowing that everything that I do is for him. And that keeps me consistent. Okay.
Very good. Thank you so much for that. And do you have a free gift or something that our listeners can go to and learn more about what you do and help them along their path?
Yes, I can give them a link to my Calendly, and you can have a free interview.
Oh, super. That would be great. And I would encourage you to, if you like what we said and it touches your heart here, get in touch with Jason. Great guy, fun to talk with. We've had a lot of fun talking, and I've learned so much. Well, and again, those links will be in the show notes. Thank you so much, Jason. It has been wonderful having you on the show.
It's been a pleasure, Joe. It's been an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, and bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Espresso Jams. If you like what you heard, please subscribe on your preferred channel and never miss another episode. If you'd like more business tips on technology, entrepreneurship, and doing better, you can find me on LinkedIn at Joe Matz, that's JoeMatz, or go to my website, apexable.com, that's apex-able.com. I'm your host, Joe Matz, wishing you an awesome day.